Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're going to hold a few moments while the room fills. Thank you so much for joining us today. Every story begins with a sketch is the title of our series, a three-part series starting today, next week on the 10th, and the last one on the 17th with the one and only Travis Blaise, who joins me today. Hi, Travis. We can hear you.
Hey, how are you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I'm doing great. Building artists to become better storytellers through virtual learning. That's what we're going to talk about in three series or in three episodes. My name is Elizabeth Garcia. I manage social media for Wacom. This will be approximately a 2-hour session. Ignore the part that says that the last 10 minutes will be for Q&A because I will be jumping in and bugging Travis with a bunch of questions throughout. Feel free to ask me your questions through the Q&A function on Zoom. And also if you're watching through Facebook, please send us your questions on there and my team will share your questions with me. This session will be recorded and shared later on YouTube. And for those of you watching us in North America, we do have an exclusive Wacom eStore offer for 5% off all Wacom products using the code TechAnimation. So if you want to teach animation or you want to animate, we encourage you to check out our products. All right, I'm going to stop talking now and give it away to Travis Blaise. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is awesome. I'm pretty excited about doing this. So I hope everyone is doing well. I'm looking at the chat room right now. It looks like we have quite a few people.
From Brazil, from India, from China. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us.
Oh, this is so great. I'm so excited to see everyone from all over the globe being a part of this, because as much as you guys are here to listen to me gab, I'm here to kind of learn from you guys as I go through this and you guys ask questions. And you know, art is a constant evolution of learning for both sides, teachers and students alike, and professionals like me.
Yes.
So how should we start?
Well, Travis, I think that we should start with you telling us who you are. We are very familiar with you because at Wacom we love animation, but maybe we have some people around here, some students who may not be familiar with your background. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So my name is Travis Blaise, and just to kind of get it out there, yes, I am the younger brother to a guy named Aaron Blaise that people may know more of. He's also a part of the Wacom family and a Wacom family, and he's an animator, of course, like me. I started animation in 1990. Yeah, 1990 is when I started with feature animation. I was a student at Ringling School of Art Design, and I had gotten this internship at Disney during my summer of 1990. And during that time, I had a great opportunity, kind of a rare opportunity, to be so close to the studio in Florida and be going to a school that was only a couple hours away, that I was allowed to not just do one internship, but I did two. And I came back for a second time in the fall after that to work on a short film called Office Rockers. And then from there, I went ahead and I came back the following summer to work on this little movie called Beauty and the Beast. And I was actually working with my brother, Aaron, on his crew in cleanup for that. And so I went back to school after that. And then in 1991, when everyone was graduating from college, and you can hear my dogs, I apologize for that. You'll hear my dogs in the background there. But in 1991, I started on Aladdin full time. So from 1991 to 92, I was actually going back and forth from school to Disney. And that was kind of a rare situation for me. And I was really grateful for that opportunity, but it got me a job, and I was with Disney for 14 years. There I was working on movies like Aladdin, Lion King, Pocahontas, During Pocahontas, I became an animator. And from there on, I was a character animator for Pocahontas, Mulan, Hunchback. I worked on Frollo. For Mulan, I worked on all the Huns and Shen Yu with a really amazing artist who has since passed and left this earth, Press Romanillis. He was an amazing animator that I learned under. And then I worked on Tarzan and Lilo and Stitch, where I got to work under the great Alex Cooper Schmidt, who supervised Stitch. And so I was one of the main animators for Stitch on that movie. And then I went on to work on Brother Bear. And that was another movie that was directed by my brother. And I also worked under Alex Cooper Schmidt for that. And I worked on Coda, the Cub. So what I've done here is just to kind of like, as I go through this whole list of things that I've done, I've also given a list to Elizabeth so that you can share along, or later you can follow up and look at my IMDb, my list of credits and my animation reel and all of those different things if you want to get to know or be more familiar with what I do. And so after Disney, I actually went on to working with a studio called Project Firefly. And there we worked on a movie called Curious George, where I animated a lot of George and a lot of the opening sequence of that. And then from there, that's when I got into story. And that's when I feel like character animation prepped me for this moment. I learned a lot about story, a lot about developing story, and a lot about developing productions through my course of just being there on the job and learning from others, watching people work, watching the different departments and interact and how they work. And I was able to get into story starting with Class of 3000. I was hired to work on for Cartoon Network to work on a show called Class of 3000, which they had music video portions of the show. And I was asked to develop and create these small snippets of 2-minute animated music videos for every episode. And so that was kind of a rare situation there, because we literally had to come up with a concept in 4 weeks and deliver it at the end of the 4 weeks from concept to finish, done. So that was an interesting situation. But I got to do story, I got to do character designing, I got to animate. And then from there, that kind of introduced me to the world of TV, where I then moved on and worked on, actually, I went and worked with my brother again on another feature film. And then I came back and I worked at Disney Toons. And at Disney Toons, I worked on a lot of short projects there. And then from there, I worked for Disney TV, where I got to work on Pen Zero. And I worked on Future Worm. And then I did also a lot of stuff for Disney Interactive, doing a lot of their commercials while I was working at Disney TV. And I also worked on a lot of their shorts segments. And then from there, I moved on to yet other things. So I went to work at Titmouse, and I worked on a series called Big Mouth, where I was storyboarding for that. And so from there, I went on to storyboarding with Rough Draft. I worked on a little bit on Disenchantment. I've done commercials in between. I did some freelance for Big Hero 6 TV series. I did one episode on that, and I've then since moved on, and I just recently worked on a feature film with Warner Brothers called Super Pets or Crypto, and that's going to come out in a couple of years. I actually was able to do character animation, storyboarding, and test animation. They kind of, I was friends with the director, and the director said, you kind of do a lot of different things. How about we just kind of throw you in the pool and you just do all of those things. So that was a really cool opportunity for me. And from there, I went over to Netflix and started working on a show called Intergalactic with the musical talents of Kid Cudi. And I was storyboarding for that. I just finished as of last week. And now I am more focused on my own company called Sketch to Animate, which is how we were presented today. So that's sort of the long end of my introduction to who I am as an artist. So yes, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Travis. Yeah, a very awesome career. Everybody here in the chat was just telling us what an amazing trajectory you've had. And yes, we know your brother, but you know, we also were very impressed. We were very happy. The reason why I wanted to work with you is because I saw you obviously in our own TV series or mini series, Cartoon Crunch, not too long ago. And I saw your teaching style and I thought it was great. And I wanted to bring you along and have your own class because you were a mentor for Cartoon Crunch. You were not really like teaching the whole class.
Yeah.
So I want you to see you in action. And also because you're an instructor with a lot of experience teaching animation online, I thought that for all those at home teaching animation during COVID, during this lockdown, it'd be nice to hear from an experienced streamer, an experienced online remote learner expert in the field of animation, which is very unique. So thank you for joining us. Today is the first episode. You will focus on showing us how you set up your in-house studio, right?
Yep,
And
I'm going to talk about the virtual setup.
Awesome. You're also going to show us a little demo?
Yeah, we're going to actually, I don't know if we'll do a demo at the end of this, but what we're going to go into is kind of jump into developing story. The very, very first approaches, and coming from a teacher standpoint. This is something that I, like Elizabeth said, part of the other side of what I do working professionally is I love to teach. I really love to kind of give back. And I was encouraged by my brother to kind of, you know, I had always done that, but I was encouraged to kind of go online with that, and which is why I created our company called Sketch to Animate. And of course, our slogan, every story begins with a sketch. And the whole purpose of that, the whole point of that is that everything about who I am, everything about the brand, everything about what I teach is all based around story. Animation is an incredible medium, and this expands 3D to stop motion to paper cutouts. Anything that involves a medium like movement frame by frame is stop motion animation, traditional animation. I wanted to teach others on how to become better storytellers through the art and the medium of animation. And I started with teaching over at DigiPen, which was kind of like the first, well, I actually, way before that, I actually was teaching at CalArts. I did an experimental class, and the first time I ever taught. And it was weird. I wasn't fully prepared for it, but I really loved the feeling that I got coming back and being surrounded by the students and the level of talent that was in the room, and the excitement that I saw in everyone's eyes when they were working on their own projects really got me excited about teaching. And so that's why I built Sketch to Animate, because we want to build a community of storytellers through our teaching of inspiring, educating, and entertaining others to make their own stories. So, but now that things have changed, right? We're all virtual. This has become the new norm. We're 9 months into this, and we're pretty much here for the long haul, probably for the next couple of years. The industry has changed as a whole. Everyone's working remotely, but our industry in animation is still thriving through this whole thing because we are able to create pipelines virtually and very easily. It's not like we have to be in the same room at the same time with someone else. That's the beauty of animation. We're not on a live action set where we are forced to be surrounded by others, the cameras, the props, the ADs, the actors, the caterers, the makeup artists, all of these people that have to be on location. That causes issues during this epidemic or pandemic that we have. But being that we're home, we are able to create virtual studios, and which is awesome for me because I've been doing this for the last 4 years now, working remotely. And so I've sort of gotten a handle. And like a lot of us out there that work remotely and have been doing it for some time, it's not that big of a transition when we have a pandemic like this. But when you, like me, who also teaches as well as I do a lot of demos for free for people online. I do drawovers for people. I had to build my setup, and I kind of wanted to kind of go through that first process of like, how is it that I'm able to work, I'm able to teach, and I'm able to do freelance all within the comfort of my house? Well, for starters, this is my studio. I actually took a lot of time. I built this with someone else, my attic space. It took me about 4 months to build this out, but I wanted to have a space that felt like me. And one of the first things I'll tell you guys as artists, and I know it's hard, maybe limitations that you might have in your room, but I think it's really, really, really important to own your own space. Find a space that you feel like is yours. Even if it's a corner of a room, or if it's one little corner of the living room, try to make that yours. Make that your space that you feel that you can go to. I find like this is my refuge. This is my safe place, as I like to call it. So when everyone's downstairs causing havoc, I can just run up here, lock the door, and just draw. So without further ado, I think what I'll do is, Elizabeth, is I might see if I can switch my camera and kind of give you guys a little virtual tour of what I have and what I do, because I think some of the things that I have here might be really, especially if you're a teacher and you want to teach properly online. I've also given a list to Elizabeth of all of the equipment that I use that you can see. But let's do this. I'll share my screen, and I'll share with you that list of things that I have. And then we can kind of talk about that. And maybe if you guys want to ask me questions as we go through this, we can. I just want to get through this so we can get to the heart of what we're going to do today, which is story. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we got that. And so here we go. We talked about who I am. This will be given to you guys later on, but I've given you a link to my website. I've given you a link to our story that kind of takes you through what we do, and then previous works about me and about my animation reel. And also I put a nice little link out here, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, about Discord. And we have a Discord that we launched for our site. And I want to invite everyone that's here to check that out, because you may want to either A, I would love for you to join our Discord, but B, you may want to do this for, if you're a teacher, you may want to create a Discord for your students. And that's something that I think we can talk about, and that's important. So for the virtual studio equipment list that I've given, this is kind of the rundown of what I have here. I have vested a lot of time and money into what I have. And I know everyone has different budgets, but this is my livelihood. So I've taken a lot of time to slowly accumulate the things that I have. And there are other ways that you can go around to make a studio quick and relatively inexpensive. There are certain price points you're not going to get around, but which is understandable, because you do have to have internet. That's the first thing, is you have to pay for internet. And I know that I have a partner who, for Sketch Animate, who is in South Africa, and there are days that she can't even get online because of internet. And that's a reality that some people have in other countries. So we have that thing to contend with. That's kind of the big thing. So having a good internet connection is great. What I have here is I have an iMac. I have an iMac Pro 27-inch. And I bought this just before the new iMacs came out, the new ones that you can customize and build out. But I found that this one has been a really good workhorse for me because of all the multiple projects that I work on and all of the different things that I do. I'm allowed to, like right now we're streaming, and I have 4 different softwares open at the same time. And I can do that without any issues of speed slowing down when I'm working in those programs. Let me see if I can switch my camera here. Because you can, Elizabeth, you can still see me on a PIP screen even though I'm sharing?
Yeah, I can still see you, but
Okay.
do you want to turn your camera around so we can see your workspace?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually, let's see here, if I can do this. How do I get to preferences. There we go. I want to switch my video input to webcam. You see the webcam?
Not yet.
Yeah, let's see if that.
No, no, we don't see you.
All right, hold on. Here we go. This is it. There you
There.
go. You might see Keanu. Anyone see
Oh my
Keanu in
God.
the room?
Yeah, we see
Do you
him.
see? Being an artist
If you stop
also
your
means,
screen share, you will see it like bigger.
okay. All right. Well, you can still see me. I'm gonna stop my screen share here for a second. And so let's see here. Stop.
There you
All right,
are.
guys. Yeah. Whoa, we're gonna get dizzy here for a second. Yes, that is Keanu. Keanu keeps me company.
The best.
Whenever I feel unmotivated, I just look at Keanu and say, Keanu, what would you do? And then he just kind of stares at me.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
I get inspiration. So let's spin this around here. I did this setup. Every artist has to have inspiration, right? So when I say make this room your own, try to make it your own. Like for instance, I've got over here, this is my small little desk of inspiration. I've got all of my books over here that from my favorite artists to how-to, I've got the Animator Survival Kit. I've got Avatar, the book. I love the art of books a lot. And I think you can learn a lot just by collecting art of books. Yeah. Not just not just artists themselves, but just productions. One of my biggest, I'm a huge fan of Cartoon Saloon, and Cartoon Saloon, of course, is coming out with, and I'm really excited, Wolfwalkers, which is coming on Apple TV Plus December 10th. So that should be, if you have it, you should check that out. But Cartoon Saloon, I have two of their art. I have the song Secret of the Kells and Song of the Sea art of books, and they are amazing. And there's just a lot you can learn from that. And over there, you see I've got my iron robot little guy over here, and this is an actual image that I did. This is one of my own pieces. So I wanted to have, this is sort of the representation of Sketch to Animate, and I did this illustration. And actually, if you sign up to our website, you can get this, you can download a high-res version of this illustration for free for signing up. But of course, we've got my Domo guy over here. But more importantly, I've got my computer. So here we go. I have a Cintiq, 21-inch Cintiq. I'm actually going to be upgrading this bad boy here. But the one great thing, of course, what the Wacom products is these things last. I was telling them earlier, my first one lasted me 10 years. I thought that's a pretty long time. That's longer than some cars. And yeah. When I had to upgrade my iMac over here, like to, I've upgraded like 5-6 different times, and which that's what Apple products do. This one should last me a good 5 years. But the Wacoms are just fantastic. So I've got a 27-inch iMac Pro. One of the things I like to do is get yourself a terabyte drive for storage, because especially when you're working, I like to keep things not on my desktop, but on my terabyte drive. So I have a 6 terabyte drive there. And then for lighting, for this here, this is interesting. There's so many different cameras you can get, but this one in particular that I got, I don't know if the lighting's good on this, this is a Panasonic 4K. This one costs about $7.99. You can get smaller ones like the Logitech that this is about $99. They've got other ones that have come out. So if you don't want to spend the money on something like this, you can always, go with something like this. And one of the things that I found that was really helpful is I'm talking right now through this wireless mic. It's called a Rode mic. And you can see that right now on here. This is the microphone that I'm talking to. I can put this, I can hide it, I can put it on my desk, I can mount it and hang it. So this is a great microphone to have. It's USB charged. and you can, or USB-C. And over here, I'm going to show you this. This is a really important thing. I do a lot of live streaming. So for my live streams, I have this thing called the Stream Deck. Now the Stream Deck they come in various sizes. I bought this one because it has literally 16 different channels, and you can see how many channels I've already filled up. Each channel represents a different point of view, or if I want to cut to me in my Cintiq, or if I want to cut to just myself, I use the Stream Deck and I set it up so I can just click and it automatically goes. Now, the Stream Deck I use in conjunction with, and Elizabeth and everyone at Wacom is very familiar with, which is the OBS software system. Now, the OBS software system kind of goes in conjunction with Stream Deck. So when you're streaming and you want to cut things and you want to transition to other channels, all you have to do is connect this in with your OBS, and your OBS is what launches the streaming. And it's a free, I think it's a free platform. It's an open source platform. Stream Deck is not free, however. I think it costs around $150 US dollars to do to buy something like that. But that, between that and OBS, and I would say I have another one called ScreenFlow, which is another software program which allows me to record and do a lot of time-lapse stuff. I found those to be really crucial for at least when I'm online streaming. And I think OBS works great, especially when you want to do, let's say, your own little tutorials. Let's say you're a teacher and you want to give instructions, but you want to pre-record something. I think having OBS is a great way to kind of create your own tutorials and cuts and transitions. Now, the other thing that I didn't put on my list is that I have an editing software program that I use, which is Final Cut. And Final Cut, I got specifically for the Mac. A lot of people use Adobe Premiere and other editing software. I use Final Cut because it's built for the iMac, and it works really well. And I use that a lot for all of my editing, my final editing. After I've recorded stuff through OBS or recorded my own animations, I then go into Final Cut to do all my final editing and producing. So over here, I just wanted to share with you guys. Remember this? Remember back in the day when we used to animate traditionally? Well, I still do. And I started doing a live stream where I am streaming traditional animation on Wednesdays. And I just did my first one, and today, and we were literally animating a bat. I was just showing people how to animate a bat live, which is kind of cool. I have a list. I've also put in there, outside of the digital realm, I also put a list of things you can get for traditional animation. If you're a teacher and you want to teach traditional animation virtually, first you need to have your setup, but I've given you a website list where you can order supplies from, and the type of paper and the type of discs. Everything can actually be bought through this website called Lightfoot Ltd. And I think they're based out of Canada. But so over here, I have this desk, and then next to that desk, I have a second iMac that I use for research. I also use this, like when I'm animating traditionally, I'll use that for reference. One of the important things that I think as you go into having, and actually I'm going to switch this over. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. The light. Everyone needs good lighting. I think lighting's important. These are relatively inexpensive. If you talk to a camera person, they're going to be like, oh, you don't want those. But for anyone that's on a budget, this ring light is a really good light to have. The only thing is make sure it's out of your reflection of your glasses. Like a lot of times when I do live streams, people can see the ring in my glasses. So I'm constantly having to adjust the lighting for that. But it's possible to go ahead and get this. And this thing, I think it might have cost me like $80 or $90 to buy this particular one here. So now I'm going to switch it back over to the other camera real quick. You guys can look at Keanu while I do that. Keanu doesn't mind. He'll just sit there and stare at you lovingly.
Wow. So Travis,
sure you don't. Yes.
earlier you were showing us your traditional animation setup. Doug wants to know if you have special paper punch for punching animation paper, or
Yes. So we'll go back to here. I'll share my screen real quick, and there we go. So again, you see the list here. Now, software, I'll go down to, I'll skip the software and go straight to the traditional part, the traditional animation setup. This is the website that I was telling you about, lightfootltd.com. There's other sites, but I really like them. I like them because of the quality of their products that they have. But what I get is I get hole punched. Now you can get, if you have a hole punch, then that's great. You can also order a hole punch, but I prefer them just doing it there because I know it's going to be cut evenly. And I usually get stacks of 500. I think this is important for this. I don't know if you guys can still see me on the screen while I'm sharing, but this paper is called, this paper is a 24 field, I'm sorry, a 12 field, 24 pound. Now, pound is important, especially the less weight it is, the more paper thin it is. So it's gonna, this is a nice thickness. It wrinkles well when you're flipping because I wrinkle a lot when I flip. But this is the exact weight paper that we use for Disney, and I just was used to this. I know other people have I tried using the lighter weight, and I would literally rip the holes and all of that stuff because it was so thin. But another thing you might want to get is they call reinforcement pegs. If you're going to do traditional animation, you get what they call reinforcement pegs, and they basically, it's little extra strips of tape that are already punched. It's like a reinforcement so that when you're moving around and you're flipping, you're not, sometimes you'll make these holes bigger because you're stretching it and you're pulling it. And so those reinforcement pegs help to keep it stationary, because this right here is what keeps everything registered. Now, the beauty behind something like this is you can draw traditionally, even like this, and with the software programs that I use, I believe with Toon Boom Harmony, which I just got, which is, they're awesome. They just sent me a license for that to test and try out. I'm going to be working a lot in that. TV Paint also does registration. So if you want to draw traditionally and then bring this into a software program digitally, you can. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring up traditional animation is, we don't know, no one really does it a lot anymore. I mean, there are studios outside of the US that does it, but it's something that you can incorporate into your digital world system. For instance, Cartoon Saloon will draw on paper, scan it in, and use that drawing texture as part of their style for their film. Like Wolfwalkers, they did a lot of incorporating, infusing traditional art and digital art in the mix of that, along with traditional animation. And if you remember Klaus also used digital and traditional. I know a lot of artists that were working on that film, some of them didn't want to draw digitally, so they drew traditionally. And then they would send those scans and they would scan it in and put it in. And then they would do, because all their final cleanup was done through the Toon Boom Harmony program. And a lot of my friends used other programs because they just preferred that. So that's the great thing about our world with the virtual software that we get and have, is that we can go ahead and intermix this and infuse it all with what we're doing. And I can't thank Wacom enough for having me do this and talk with you guys, because I think this is a great opportunity to kind of ask us questions and hopefully help you guys to get set up and on your way to working virtually and hopefully painlessly. You might have hiccups along the way like I did yesterday. My microphone kept canceling out because I forgot to charge it. Those are the little downsides of working remotely. So anyways, hopefully I answer that question. And also on this screen, you see down here, when I'm drawing traditionally, I like to use 7/9Bs. we used to have really soft pencils that we would use. And if you ever watch Glenn Keane and see how textural and beautiful his line art is, it's not just because he's super talented, it is mostly because of that. But the pencils that he used was what we all used. Like, we saw what Glenn was using. We're like, if we get this magic pencil, we're going to animate just like him. Well, that didn't happen. But I definitely loved the feel and texture of those pencils. And so I prefer to do like 7 to 9B graphite sticks, or you can get like an Ebony brand or a Tombow, which is based in Japan. You can get those pencils. And for when you're drawing traditionally, kneaded erasers are really nice because you can stretch them and ply them. You can stick them on your little peg, and you can roll them to rub down your drawings when you want to make them a little bit cleaner. And then, of course, if you want to do traditional all the way through, we used color erase blue and red pencils to do kind of like our loose final line before we went to pencil for that final clean line traditionally. So that's kind of the traditional setup. One of the other things that you might want to consider when you are working remotely and you're working with a team or you're teaching is what type of software do you want to use, and what type of software is out there available for, let's say, your students. You know, not everyone, again, every single thing that you see here has a different price point. Toon Boom Harmony to Storyboard Pro to Photoshop to TV Paint. Thankfully, a lot of these are subscription based. So if you want to do a monthly subscription for something, or if you're a student, you get discounts. A lot of these software companies are offering discounts. And I believe, you know, being a part of this, there might be some kind of discounts that Wacom has. I'm not exactly sure, Elizabeth, on that one, but you can certainly find there's lots of other programs out there for students even that might be open source, that are free to relatively cheap. There's other programs like Clip Studio, Rough Animator, there's Pencil, and I know I'm missing a couple more, but all you have to do is just go out there and do the research. But these ones are the ones that I have in my arsenal, besides Final Cut for editing, and the OBS and the Stream Deck mixed with ScreenFlow is what I have for my setup. Now, for the big thing is, how do we do meetings? How do we set up? Well, first off, we're doing a Zoom. Zoom is going big. I know, remember somebody was telling us, buy into Zoom. You need to buy into Zoom. Zoom has become quite the useful tool, and a lot of the industries are using them, and we use them. We're using it for this event. I've used them for a lot of meetings that I had for Netflix. Netflix is a big component of Zoom. I've also used Microsoft Meet. Some people love it, some people don't love it. But Microsoft Meet was something that we used for DigiPen when we were doing virtual setups, especially virtual classes. But I think what's important when you're teaching, especially if you're teaching or if you're a student and you're working in groups, you want to have something that allows you to share your screen. You also want to have something that allows you to see each other, and have someone that can be an administrator that can mute what needs to be mute. You can, so having that control over who gets to talk and who gets to share. And then also the capability of recording. Now, I think you guys are recording on your end, Elizabeth, yes, for this Zoom. Yeah. So you'll have that available. Those are important tools that you want. You want to be able to record this information because, we're talking on the fly, and sometimes we're coming up with an idea when you're teaching that you may not remember, that you didn't write in your curriculum, that would have been a good moment or a good nugget of information. Now you have it recorded. And that's the other beauty of having a virtual setup and having a good meeting platform to be able to do that. Now, Google Hangout is something that I've also used. There's certain limitations with that. I know with Zoom, what's nice is that you can share your files. Let's say if you want to share back and forth file systems, that's really nice to do. Skype is also something, I know a lot of people don't use Skype. but I still use it. And I actually use it when I'm doing my virtual live demos and I'm inviting people, or when I do my Wednesday live streams, I'm actually Skyping my partner from Florida. I'm in Seattle, he's in Florida, and we co-host a show together. Or he's actually in Alabama. We're 2 hours apart from each other. So we co-host a show 3 days a week. And so that's really nice to have that capability of doing that. Now, going down the list, if you see here, it says virtual workspaces. Workspaces is project places when you're working on group projects. What are the place that I found that was really helpful? I started with Trello, and Trello was good for like putting up boards and to-do lists, and kind of like, it's almost like having sticky tabs is how I was using Trello. But once we got into Slack, we stopped using Trello because Slack is something that's really big right now. But Slack was something that I've used for teaching, for group sessions. I did a workshop with students who were like 15 plus students, and you all collaborate and talk to one another. You can send direct messages to each other. You can share information. You can create, little tags and little places for, let's say, for us, for work, I have a social media platform. So I have someone in Brazil who does all my social media. So she sends me information. We go back and forth and say, hey, I want you to throw this image up for tomorrow. And I throw it up there, boom, she does it. Slack is a really useful tool for project and project managing, and for collaboration, because it lives virtual. Now, one of the things that we haven't talked about on here that I think is also important is your ability to store information. So I have two things. The way I do it is I'm a huge fan of Google. Some people are, some people aren't. I have the Google Drive, which I use for everything. And I have the cloud. Since I'm an iMac, my whole house is set up with Apple products. My whole house can interact with one another. The cloud is really nice because of that. My brother's also working on the cloud. So when I'm doing my tutorial, I did a tutorial, for instance, for Calipeg app for my brother's studio. But typically I would fly out there, we would record it at his house, and then I'd come home. But because of the pandemic, we set everything up remotely. We were literally able to share our folders on our screens, on our desktops, to where his partner, Nick, could directly access my folder. So as I'm recording OBS, I am allowing him to also take over my computer. Like, he can work remote my computer through OBS, and he's able to control it and then do all the cuts and editing and direct remotely. I have the setup. He has access to it remotely, and he can do all the cuts and say, oh no, do this, do that. And he's able to, as we're recording it, we're downloading it, I have a shared folder that goes directly to his desktop. So now he's getting the information as it's being recorded, and it's slowly uploading to his desktop. So there's that kind of thing that's really nice when you have similar systems, and you have the cloud-based system or a Google system like that, which is really nice. The other thing that you want to consider, and this is something new for me, but I'm also learning this, is using Discord. Discord is becoming a hugely powerful tool. A lot of the younger generation, a lot of the younger kids are really loving that system. We created a Discord. My partner in South Africa, she developed it, and our own Discord for Sketch to Animate. I gave you a link, and I'm welcoming you guys, inviting you to join our Discord, because Discord is really creating a community-based, it's a community-based platform. It's allowing those that are either in a classroom or people that enjoy the same things. It's like, I think of it like more of like a remote Facebook. It's a social media platform that allows you to create channels. On our Discord, the reason why I want you guys to check it out is you can see how we've got things set up. We have a Patreon site, and we have a Twitch site. And those people that pay for those sites, we have a special channel for them where I can once a week sit down and draw with them directly. Discord has the ability to, with small groups of people, has the ability to do video and go live and share as you're drawing. So last week I did my first draw together channel, which is what we have. And we had like 6 or 8 people in the room and we're all drawing together. They were watching me. I was talking to them. I was seeing them and they would be sharing their work. And I'm talking to them as I'm explaining what I'm doing. And I was drawing bats. And it was really cool to kind of have that intimate moment, you know, because I'm so used to talking to others like I am now and not hearing anything back. That Discord allows me to kind of have more of an intimate moment with someone who I've created a friendship or a relationship with virtually. So I think that could be a powerful tool, especially when you're learning and you're teaching and you're trying to build something with a virtual classroom setup. Now, the other thing that I have that I think is also important as artists and students is to create some social media accounts. I have a Facebook, a Twitter, a YouTube, an Instagram, and a Twitch. Those are all the different social media platforms, and each one of those has its own purpose. So one of the things that I've noticed is that if I want to teach or I want to do a live demo like I do, I'll use Twitch for that purpose because Twitch is set up for doing live channel shows. YouTube is more of a people do live shows on there, but it's more of a pre-recorded kind of setup scenario. So we found that it's better that once we record a free tutorial that we also have on our YouTube site or live demos, we go ahead and record them and we upload them to that. And then we allow that to live there for people to kind of at their leisure, go ahead and look at those videos. So you may want to, as a student or a teacher, you may want to create your own YouTube account. I think you get your own YouTube account when you have a Google email. That's something kind of cool that I think Google owns YouTube now. So they've kind of had the interaction where like Facebook owns Instagram. And so there's that integration between Facebook and Instagram. And I think that is, I don't know if I'm missing anything. I think that's about all of the kind of virtual things that I have in my arsenal of stuff, Elizabeth. How does that sound?
It sounds
We're at
amazing.
12:47.
It's a ton of useful information that we will definitely be sharing because a lot of people are taking notes, and we are sharing all this information in the chat, but I'm sure our Facebook friends also wonder where they can reference. So we're going to upload all of this in the Wacom blog later on. And for those of you who registered on Zoom, on the follow-up email, we will also be posting all of this information to help you build your own digital studio, digital classroom. And like Travis said, there's a lot of options. Check your budget. This is what Travis recommends. He's been doing this for a long time. So you don't have to have everything. Obviously, use baby steps. I do have some questions here from the audience that I want to related to what you just talked about. Several people were wondering, what do you think about software like Procreate, if you use it, and if you're familiar with it, if you recommend it?
Again, there's every software. I just want to preface that it doesn't matter what software you use, it's how you use it. Okay, it's not going to negate you. There's no magic software that's going to make you a better artist other than time and effort to be that artist and to practice, draw. Even if it's a sketchbook. First things I would say, grab a sketchbook, always have a sketchbook with you, always have pen and paper. I still have that. As a matter of fact, my brother, because he came and visited me, he bought me a handmade sketchbook that I'm about to fill up. This is always going to be a traditional tool belt for any artist, whether you're a traditional artist or an animator or story artist or character designer. This is important to have. Now, in regards to Procreate, yes, I've used Procreate. I think Procreate's awesome. I have an iPad, and we can talk briefly about that. But I have an iPad specifically because I use a program called Calipeg. And Calipeg is a software program for traditional animators. Now, that's something that I've used quite a bit, and I'm actually part of their team that's helping them develop and make that product better because I believe in what they're doing. I bought my iPad specifically for the Calipeg and also Procreate. Now, my main hub is where I'm at now, which is the Wacom Cintiq, and that's where I typically do most of my stuff. And so Procreate isn't really on this setup, but when you're working remotely, or let's say you don't have a desktop, you know, I know Wacom does have the what do you call them? The mobiles. They're a fantastic product. They have a higher price point because it is an internal computer that's built in, but that's a great tool. But you know, if you have an iPad, there are tons of apps that you can use. And if you have a desktop, a lot of some of the apps are integrated with your desktop. Like I don't know if you can use Procreate for your desktop, but Procreate for the iPad, I think, has been a pretty good thing to use just because the brushes are really nice. There's also Clip Studio that I have a friend on Instagram. His name's Mel. If you go look, I think it's Mel D Art or something like that. Amazing. He's got like 300,000 followers. This guy is a huge fan of Clip Studio, and most of all of his work is done in that. And they have fantastic brushes. And I think they also do animation. It's also an animation program.
They do. Yeah, we're also fans of Clip Studio.
Do you know Mel?
I don't know Mel, but I know.
If you don't, you should, because that guy is amazing.
I'm gonna.
He is insane, and he's like the nicest guy in the world.
All right, we're gonna go find him and follow him and check him out.
Anyways, what are some of the other questions?
Yeah, we have John Quinn. Hi, Travis, longtime PC guy here and new to animation. Do compatibility issues come up between PC and Apple users in independent animation? And should I jump ship? You
mean jump ship as far as getting away from PCs and going into using a Mac?
Yeah, I guess it means.
You know what? Really, it comes down to there's a lot of good product. I mean, I'm also a PC user. I just happen to have my entire setup with Mac because I was always a Mac person from the early days when we were at Disney before computers were really a big thing. Apple was always there in our studio, so probably out of habit and culture, I've always used Apple products. But I can tell you, there's a lot of my partner is a PC guy, and everything that I do, he does on his PC, and he is an expert in PCs, and he will tell you you don't need a Mac. You can build your own PC. So that's up to you in terms of what you think is better or not better. Because nowadays you can interact with one another. Whether you're working on a PC or not, a PC and a Mac, you can still interact and work on co-productions using different programs or different hard drives. So that's really a personal choice. I think what I found is that when people use PCs, don't buy pre-built PCs, build your own. I have 9 times out of 10, building your own PC is getting the knowledge of how to do it or know somebody that knows how to do it, and you give them specifically what you want and then have them build it for you. That's what my friend does here. He's a big gamer. He's huge in the industry doing game development. His name's John Hermanowski. He doesn't really have a website, but he's a teacher. He works in the industry. He's a fantastic artist, but he also builds his own PCs, and he also has a Mac. So he uses both. I've heard different things for working 3D animation versus 2D, which one you should use. But again, it really comes down to personal choice. What's the next question?
What do you think about Blender? Dulce is asking us.
So I downloaded Blender. I just started using it. I'm not too familiar with it. And the reason why I started I'm fascinated with new things and new gadgets. So I'm always checking things out and seeing what's comfortable. What I found immediately is the blender is cool, and it's great as a learning tool. It's not an industry standard for mainstream movie making, although I know you can make a short film. I've seen one of the reasons why I was checking it out, because it's open source and it's free, is that a lot of my friends that I watch on social media have been showing me their animatic tests where they built out their own sets. Now, I don't know how to do 3D. I don't know how to use ZBrush. I apologize. I'm a traditional guy. Not that I can't do it, it's just my brain is elsewhere. But I've seen them build these entire sets and then storyboard and through it and run a camera move through it. And I thought, oh man, that's so freaking cool that you can do that. But I once I started getting into it, I was like, oh, this is taking too much time for me to do this. I could just draw this faster. So I draw fast, so I end up just using my own challenging myself with my own cinematic movements traditionally, and drawing it out of my head. So that might be crazy, I don't know, but I feel like that's the best for me. But Blender could be a great tool to use. Again, I don't know if it's something that if you're a student and if it's a skill set that you need to have going into a studio that may not be using Blender. But I think it's a great tool for building another medium to use, like acrylics or like, Photoshop. It might be another medium to develop your craft, which is really the heart of what you're doing, either animating or storyboarding or maybe sculpting. So what's the next question?
Travis, is it realistic to teach yourself animation without going to school?
Short answer is yes. Nowadays it is. And the reason why is because you have people like myself, you have people like Aaron Blaise, you have Proco, you have Schoolism, Bobby Chu, you have a number, you have CG Animation Academy, which is an online school, but there's resources nowadays, and I'm not gonna knock the educational system at all, but I do understand that going to school is really expensive. And when you're learning animation specific, or you're learning a specific idea like what we're doing, I think going to school is great for learning the foundations and understanding. Like, I went to Ringling to understand how to draw academically, to learn anatomy, to learn all of the fundamentals of color theory and value. But really what it comes down to is, what is your personal stake? How much time are you willing to invest your own self into this? Because just like I said before with Procreate, there's no magic software that's going to take away from you doing the hard work yourself. And so, can you learn on your own? Yes. Finding the right resources is important. With school, at least their job is to guide you in the right direction, to find the best tools for you to learn from. You're on your own when it comes to working and being self-taught. But if you buy a tutorial from Aaron, or buy a tutorial from Proco, or buy a tutorial from me, you're going to get instruction from professional artists. So, and even then, it's up to you to put in the hard work to follow through and take that information and make it your own. So yes, it is possible. And I think you can do it relatively inexpensively, but it's not going to take away from, in a lot of ways, you have to work even harder, because you have to schedule and time manage yourself to take the time every day. I draw 16 hours a day, every day. Some people think that's crazy, but I love it. I mean, if I'm not doing it, I don't know what I would do, to be perfectly honest. This is something that it's been since I was a little kid, always doing art. With my brother, the same thing. So we're in a unique position, as everyone on here right now listening to me. animation and art is a passion. It's a labor of love. It's something that as creatives, it's ingrained in our DNA that we want to do this. And I want to do what I do. And I love doing this. I'm not the best one in the world. I'm not the worst. I am who I am. I love who I become as an artist and what I've accomplished. And I work hard at it every day. And that's just something that I think it's important for you guys to understand, that you have to put the time in. No matter what you do, it takes the hard work to become a better artist. That's what I got.
Thank you. That's great advice. So maybe a friend of yours, Kevin Wood. Hi, Travis. Lots of years gone by. Happy to see you doing what you do best. What's your opinion on the digital airbrush?
Digital airbrush. Let's see here. I don't really use it that much. I know Kevin, when he was working, he did a lot of airbrushing, and he does a lot of traditional and medium. He does a lot of really good superhero characters. That's where I remember seeing him and seeing his artwork. And I know he's grown over the years and become a much better artist. And we'll probably say it takes a lot of hard work just to do what you're doing. But in terms of the digital airbrush, I don't really use that much at all. I think it's a specific thing that you use. And there's so many other, I guess with Photoshop, I'm more of a traditionalist. So I like the more opaque quality or brush qualities. Anything that I can find that has more of a brush technique, that has that type of texture, that's what I'm going to end up going for. But there's other, like with all Procreate and all these other things, there's other ways to emulate the brush, the airbrush look that you don't have to use in terms of the airbrush tool. And that, of course, are you talking about Photoshop? Or are you talking about Procreate or Clip Studio? That's just something I don't use that often. But anyways, I mean, that's a good question to ask.
Thank you. We have another question here.
Sure.
What advice do you have for artists who are studying classical drawing and want to diversify into digital drawing? When using Photoshop, for example, what's the best way to integrate traditional drawing workflow in it? I am used to working with traditional media such as pencils and watercolors. Pruva.
Well, one of the so that's a great question. Again, it comes down to your workflow and what you used to. If you're like me, who started traditional and then slowly integrated into digital, because of my traditional background, there were certain habits and certain workflows that I was used to. And so when I was going digital, I was looking for those similar workflows that were in the digital world. So one of the things that I thought was always really cool is that, you know, the integration that we started with is Disney. We still hand drew everything. I think the last thing that we did cell animation was Prince and the Pauper. And that was something that we did in Florida, where we actually hand inked it and everything else. From that point on, everything that we drew digitally or drew by hand got scanned in and converted digitally through our CAP system, an early ink and paint system, which is before all of Toon Boom and all these other programs that are out there. We had an ink and paint system. That was the first integration of going from traditional to digital and creating a pipe flow or a workflow for that to work. For instance, today, I'm going to figure out how to take my hand drawings of that bat animation and integrate it into digital. So what I will do probably is take the hand drawings, scan them in. And I think one of the things I forgot to tell you that's not in my room, but is downstairs, is I have a large format scanner. I have an Epson 3570, I think it's 3575 large format scanner, so I can get large 16 field paper or 11 by 17 scannable paper to go in there. So what I'll do is I'll scan my drawings in, then bring them up here, plop them into, let's say, TV Paint or Toon Boom, and then digitize them. And now I have traditional drawings that are in there, and I'll end up coloring it. What's cool is you might want to figure out a way to experiment by maybe doing a watercolor texture or background, and then scanning that in and putting it into, let's say, Photoshop. So you have a real watercolor effect, but then draw over that. There's a lot of times where I'll go to the zoo and I'll sketch, and I like my sketches. So I'll take a picture of it just with my camera, plop it in there, and I'll bring it into Photoshop, and I'll start adding details, and I'll use it as my underdrawing for my finished digital product. So I don't know, Elizabeth, if I answered it correctly, but that's how I would integrate, in my mind, how I'd integrate traditional art into digital.
I think you answered it great. And if our guest has a follow-up question, she can send it to us.
Okay. Awesome. These are all great questions, by the way. I mean, you know, I'm here to teach and let you know what my thoughts are.
Yes. Next time, remember, on December 10th, we have the second session, and on December 17th, we have the third session. So a lot of these questions that I'm seeing here, Travis is actually going to end up covering later on when he talks about story and, you know, the best way to get your point across in storyboarding and all of that stuff. It's coming up next. I don't want to get too far ahead, but I do want to make sure that these questions get some answers. Millie Munoz, do you have any type of advice? What kind of work should go into an animation portfolio?
That's a big question. And the reason why it's a big question is animation is a very broad topic, right? Like when you're talking about an animation portfolio, you might, if you're talking to her right now, Elizabeth, the question I would ask is what direction are you wanting to go in animation? Right. Do you want to go 3D? Do you want to go 2D? Do you want to be a character animator? Do you want to be a character designer? Do you want to be a prop designer? Do you want to be a background artist? Do you want to be an effects animator? Do you want to go and do storyboarding? You know, all of these things. Do you want to be a ZBrush sculptor? You know, do you want to, all of these things have particular needs that a specific portfolio is required for. Now, a lot of times studios, when you're putting together a portfolio, you, as a student, one of the things you need to learn is research, research, research. If you're going to apply for a studio, don't just say, I'm going to apply for Disney. Why are you going to apply for Disney? What is it about Disney that you like? What are the projects that they do? And be very realistic with yourself. Does your portfolio, let's say you want to be a background artist, does your portfolio meet the standards that you think would work for that studio? Cartoon Network versus Sony are two different cultures. Now, I've worked for many different studios, and a lot of us professional artists out there have. There's not any one person that I can say. There's very few people that have been in one studio for more than 20 years, with the exception of some of my friends that like Paul Briggs, you know, all of those guys that from Florida, some of those guys that are directors at Disney have been there 25 years or 20 plus years. But for the most part, people float, and each studio has its own dynamics, its own what they produce. If you look at Nickelodeon and you look at Cartoon Network, they're going to be two completely different styles of shows versus Disney TV. Disney TV has its own specifically brand and style that they're going for to reach a certain target audience. And the question you have to ask yourself is, do you fit within that culture? So you need to do your research as to what studio it is that really interests you. There's also smaller studios like Cartoon Saloon or Tonka House. You know, there's all these little, or Powerhouse in Austin, Texas, that does Transylvania. You've got Titmouse that does Big Mouth, Rough Draft that does Disenchantment. But each one of these studios, I can tell you, completely different dynamics, completely different things that they're looking for. And you have to kind of cater your portfolios to each studio. So, and it's kind of frustrating, even me as an old guy who's also working in industry and teaching and running a business. It's hard to have to keep up with everyone, especially if, let's say, one minute I'm working at Warner Brothers, and all of a sudden the next minute I'm applying for a job at Rough Draft, and they want to see a whole new portfolio again. So then I got to regroup and redo all my portfolio and put something together. But you have to take the effort. So there's no, I guess the big answer to this is no magic portfolio other than draw really well. I think fundamentally you need to be a really good artist. I think we need more solid draftsmen in this industry, people that have learned academic skilled drawing, and especially when it comes to 2D or pre-production. All of your talent and pre-production is going to happen, or all of the artwork or the 2D elements of animation is going to happen in the pre-production phase of anything that's out there, especially even if it's 3D. There's a whole 22 months of, or 24 months of pre-production that's all storyboarding, visual development, drawing. I mean, trust me, I've done it. I've already been in that industry doing that. That is where, as a traditional artist, you're going to ultimately live and thrive as an artist in the animation industry. So
that's a really good point. A lot of people asking questions about drawing. Ultimately, a lot of these questions lead to this one: what drawing fundamentals should someone who wants to be an animator do first? What should they start with? You talk about we need more good craftsmanship, more good drawing out here, but it's really overwhelming for a student. What fundamentals should they tackle first?
I would say fundamentally have a passion, or try to have a love, like I'm drinking my coffee, that's, and it's automatic for me. Drawing should be like brushing your teeth. Fundamental drawing is, as kids, we made up stories and we doodle and we create. I have my neighbor's kid is an amazing little kid, and he knows what I do. So the other day he drew me this dragon because he knows I like dragons. So he drew me this dragon. It was amazing. He did it out of his head. And it was really simple. And I told her, I said, you gotta keep homing in on that passion, keep encouraging him, because I feel like at a certain age we are stopped. We're not always encouraged. I was blessed with surrounded with a lot of people that encouraged me to do art. My family, who were also very talented. So I had that influence, which I think influence in your environment is important for cultivating the things that you want to do. When you're an artist and you want to become a better artist, you know what I would do? I would surround myself with better artists. I would make sure that I was with groups of people that I could learn from and that would challenge me and say, you know what, that's great, but maybe you could do it more like this. Surrounding yourself and cultivating that and nurturing that. So you need people that are supportive. Like here, like if you come to Sketch to Animate Discord, you're going to find a lot of people that are encouraging each other to become better artists. I think a lot of times, in order to become a better artist, we want to be inspired. And sometimes it's hard to internalize and inspire yourself. So we need others to kind of be inspired by to do. And so that's part of becoming a better artist or a better draftsman. Fundamentally, I think learning figure drawing, drawing from life, drawing your pet. I have 2 dogs that are here that I'll sometimes sit and draw. And we have a challenge that I try to tell people to do. One of the art challenges is, if you're going to learn to draw, go to the zoo, sketch, or if you're at home right now, go Google an animal that you like. Go Google a particular style or fashion that you like, or a particular person, and practice drawing that. If you're with your family, if you're not alone and you have others that you socially are with as far as your small pods, sketch each other. And then get that feedback. It's really important, I think, to have feedback from other people that are objective and also good artists that can help you along the way to kind of challenge you and say, hey, you know, you need to push this. Because a lot of times we'll sit there and draw and we don't have anyone to show it to kind of say, hey, what do you think? And then that's part of going to school, right? Is you draw, you get an assignment, you draw it, you get a critique. And then the critique, the purpose of a critique is to help improve or see the things that you might be missing in the fundamental aspects of your drawing, so that the next time you do it, you learn from that and you improve on that. And by doing that, it's all about repetition. So I think drawing from life, learning the academically anatomy, muscle, shape, language, those are really good building blocks. If you're going to become a better artist, like a layout artist or story artist, my suggestion is to really sit down and draw the world around you. Look at your environments. Look at through the camera's lens. Pick up photography. Pick up cinematography. Pick up a camera and start shooting and practicing with different focal lengths and seeing the world in a different perspective, which is what we eventually will end up doing when we make productions. We will look through this camera's lens as far as how we see the world. And I always say, to become a better story artist, you need to have 3 or 4 things. You need to be a good cinematographer. You need to be a good director. You need to be a good writer, which is, believe it or not, incredibly important. And you need to be a good draftsman, an animator, and a layout artist. You're kind of, because you're laying the foundation, the blueprint of what a production is going to build itself on. And that is a really important job and a scary job and nerve-wracking job to have, but it's really, really rewarding. So you need to have those academic skills, which I think just by picking up a pencil and drawing a circle, repetition, you know, drawing a circle over and over again, drawing straight lines over and over again, just that repetition, that exercises your brain and your hand to coordinate with one another to be able to draw better and better. And it's building those little brain synapses, these little bridges, to help you train yourself to see what you're seeing up in front of you and putting it down through it goes from your eyes to your brain, to your arm, to the canvas. And it will get to a point, through repetition, that you'll be able to do that with unconsciously. You'll be able to draw a character without even thinking about it. It becomes instinctual. I always say, because of all the hours that I put into drawing traditionally, drawing my friends, drawing from the zoo, drawing my animals, I can sit down and just immediately start drawing, and I can project what I see in my mind and just kind of put it down as and I just trace it. I imagine it on the canvas, and I just start tracing what I imagine. And that's how I end up drawing nowadays. But that's thousands of hours in practice. So that's a very long answer to a question, but it's a very big question.
It was a very big question, just like the portfolio question. I think it's going to continue to pop up because a lot of people want to know how to get those jobs. But like you say, it's really going to depend on the kind of project they're getting into in the studio.
Is this making sense how I'm answering these to you, Elizabeth? Is this resonating?
It's resonating to me, of course, and judging by all these questions, I think everybody's also finding the information really valuable. So thank you very much for taking the time. Yes, they're saying that it makes sense, so don't worry.
Okay. No, it's great. I get really passionate and really excited about this. I love what I do. I can't, there's no other way to describe it other than I love what I do, and I love sharing. And I don't get intimidated when I see better artists. I get excited because it makes me want to draw more and more and more and more. And I want to be as encouraging and as positive as I possibly can be, because we need more of that in this world.
Let's get drawing. All right. There's a very strange question He
Okay.
said strange questions. Like, good
Can I
day.
answer it strangely?
I hope so. I would like to ask a strange question. Is there a department in animation production that is connected both with animation and foreign language? My profession is an English and Chinese teacher, but I'm interested in animation and would like to understand whether my current profession may help me to get in the industry.
So I guess the first question is, what is that current profession? And ironically,
an English and Chinese teacher. He's currently an
okay.
English and Chinese teacher trying to get into the industry.
So ironically, I happen to have a good friend who's Japanese. Her name is Naoko, and she works for, I think the gaming studio is called Big Fish. I want to say it's Big Fish. She lives in Seattle with me here. Not with me. Her and her husband are really close friends of mine. And she's a translator for Japanese, from English to Japanese. So she works, she's huge, and she's busy doing translations into a Japanese market, specifically for a gaming company. So I guess the short answer is yes, I think it is possible. It's a very strange, it's not a strange question, because ironically, I know somebody that's doing exactly, I think, what you're talking about. So there are studios that require things to be put into different languages. And my suggestion would be is do your research and find out, the best thing to do is find out if there's an American-based company that is translating, that is sending stuff into a Chinese market. Somebody has to translate it, right? It has to be translated. A lot of times these things are translated. So they have some kind of, whether it's freelance or whether you're in-house, I believe there is a department that has a need for someone to do translation like that. So yeah, that's the best answer I can give for that.
I also happen to know several translators who, translate shows, literally the subtitles and everything.
Yep.
So a lot of,
Yep, there's a business in that.
yes, and they cannot be literal translations. They have to be, regionalized, because a lot of
They have to inflect
jokes
the
don't make
emotion.
sense in different languages. A joke in Spanish doesn't make sense in English sometimes if it relies on wordplay. So anyway, good question. We have Daria Brooks here. Hi,
Okay.
what would be the best app or program for an amateur solo animator to use at home to create a 4 to 6 minute animated short? I have an Intuos Pad, Procreate, and the Adobe Suite. I have the character designs and the story, but want to move to the next step. What should I do next? Thank you.
Well, that's a good segue into what we're going to be doing.
Yes.
Elizabeth.
Awesome.
Well, the first question is what software program? There's not any one software program. Well, there are a couple, and right off the bat, TV Paint and Toon Boom Harmony are two programs that I know that effectively you could ultimately do everything in, including editing. But realistically, people tend to work outside of one or two. They usually typically have one or two programs. For instance, my workflow, I'm trying my hardest. I have about literally nine development projects that I'm trying to build for myself, because I've worked 30 years making other people's dreams come alive. I want to make my own dream come alive. So I am right where you're at, trying to make and develop my own stories. So I have an on-nut story. I have an arc story, which I'm going to use as an example today for the next 30 minutes after I answer this question. We'll go into that. But before you get into any of that, we're going to dive into story, building your story chops before you get into building a short film. Software programs, I think it is very possible if you have an editing software. You said you have Intuos. I don't know what program or if desktop you have. I think it is possible to use some kind of editing. You need to have some kind of editing software for one, whether it's Adobe Premiere, whether it's Final Cut like I have. Now, Final Cut is not a subscription based. You buy it and you own it for life. And any upgrades that happen with it, you get. TV Paint is you buy it once, you buy it for life. Toon Boom Harmony is subscription based, and they have different price points for different levels of artists. And I think you might find Toon Boom Harmony to be a good choice for you. If you're a student, you'll get a discount. Now, the Toon Boom Harmony program that I have is not cheap. It's for professional level artists. It is a full-blown program that allows you to do an entire pipeline through it. It's set up for professional industries. So people like Mercury Studios or studios like Mercury that are full-on production using Harmony. Disney outsources a lot of their productions to Mercury Studios. The whole Tangled series was done that way. But before we got into pre-production, or before production, it was pre-production, Photoshop, like you have Procreate. I think she said Procreate, right?
Yes, Procreate and Adobe Suite, which Adobe Suite can allow her to.
So Adobe Suite means you have all of the programs in that. So with the Adobe Suite, yes, you could definitely, with Premiere, Photoshop, they even have Adobe Animate, which is something that I haven't used, but a lot of my friends use, which is what Flash used to be, which is what I did use. It's kind of funny, ironically, I did I'm developing a Grom's music video, which is an original production that I've created that I'm going to be launching in the new year. That's what I'm focusing on right now. I originally did that in Flash, the animatic, like 10 years ago in Flash. And I recently pulled it up and we added a new original song to it that I have a lot of friends that are in the hip hop industry. So they gave me a track, we threw it in there and it just fit perfectly. But I was like, I can't view the original files. And then I called up my buddy and says, hey, well, I've got Adobe Animate, send me your FLAs. So I sent him all my files and sure enough, all of my old Flash files from 10 years ago opened right up in Adobe Animate. And Adobe Animate could be a good program for doing puppet style animation. That's what it's built for, which is the same as Flash. So you can create bone structures and different things like that. The same with Toon Boom Harmony. But if you have Adobe Animate already, everything you need is pretty much there. Even if you wanted to, like I said, draw on paper, sketch on paper, draw layouts on paper, and then scan them in and then put them into your digital, you can do it that way. So it's incredibly feasible. But the first and foremost, which is what we're going to go into now, is we'll briefly talk about the building blocks and how I approach creating my own short story. Now, I want to preface by saying I've never had a TV show produced. I've worked on 20 plus, 30 plus productions. But I'm doing this for myself. I know I have the building blocks. As a matter of fact, one of the things I forgot to tell you, I even spent, I don't know if I told you this, Elizabeth, I spent 3 months managing a studio in China, in Shanghai. I actually flew out there for a month. I had to manage the entire production crew from cleanup to animation to backgrounds. I had to do drawovers and color changes and layout changes and continuity changes. It was a really interesting and rewarding job to have, because I got to see the behind the scenes of what outsourced animation looks like from an American studio. That was pretty interesting.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So yeah, no, it was great. So let's just dive into, hopefully I answered that question to the best I can. Let's dive into the story aspects of, let's say you're a student. I'm talking to students, I'm talking to instructors, I'm talking to anyone that's out there. The fundamentals of what I'm talking about applies to a children's book, because that's what I wanted to be before animation. I wanted to be a children's book writer and illustrator. It applies to comics, anything. The only difference between those two mediums that I just described in animation is that we're making more images, and we're at 24 frames per second that are coming to life. Other than that, they're the same thing. They're still images that we just put in sequential order that move. But in a simplified format, comics and illustrations and children's books are the same exact thing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They're just simplified. Storyboarding is no different than comics and children's books. I look at children's books and I call those beat boards. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So I have a few things that I opened up. And I'm going to share my screen real quick. And again, I want to thank you, Elizabeth, for letting me do this, because this is really fun so far. And I hope everyone's getting something out of this. I want to make sure that the time that we spend here is valuable. So
everybody that you've answered questions to seems very pleased. Thank you, Daria. She found your question.
Okay.
That's really helpful. So now we're going to switch gears. I'm going to stop asking questions for a little bit because Travis is going to teach us something.
Yes, something or another. We're going to talk about story, right?
Yes.
What is story? And story and visual storytelling. Story is something that as a kid I started doing, making up stories, telling stories. As when I was 5 years old, I remember one of the first memories of coming up with a concrete story was I was fascinated with dinosaurs, so I created 100 different ways to use a bronchiosaurus, and I think I said that right. The long necks, I call them the long necks. Yeah. So I had literally created like 101 different ways that you could use for a kid at 7 years old. These are the 101 different ways that I can use a dinosaur. And it was great because it really made me think, even in those early stages. And I think one of the key things to telling stories is whether you're telling it from an adult's perspective, or in my industry or our industry in animation, for young adults, we're constantly trying to get into our inner child, to holding on to that inner child, to kind of see it from the perspective of that, because as we get older, our perspective changes. So, and those experiences that we have is what's going to allow us to become better storytellers. So one of the things that we need to fundamentally know and understand when you, let's say you want to become a story artist or you want to build your story, is that you need to, I always say, try to come at it from a place of personal experience. Every production that I'm ever on, I try to figure out a way that I can relate to it in some way, because the more I can put myself into the storytelling visually, the more authentic it becomes. I don't know if that makes sense, but really it's, you can draw on the surface, or you can cut a few layers of your onion skin of your personality and your experiences and really dive deep and find those internal things that you can pull out and throw in. And because it's coming from a real place, it's going to be believable to the audience. So story is really about sharing an experience, sharing an idea, sharing a thought, a dream. It's really, as I think, storytelling fundamentally is what makes us humans, in terms of our cultures and enriching ourselves, and passing on a story from our past, our grandmothers or grandparents telling us a story that we can relate to our kids, and our kids can relate to that. I know there's tons of stories that I have told over the years that I've shared with my kids, and stories that I've told about my dad to them that I've wanted to incorporate into my own storytelling of my shorts and projects that I'm doing. So when I started teaching, I was thinking, how can I get story artists? So I was teaching this story class, visual story class, and I said, how can I get these kids to understand storyboarding? And it said, everything went back to, well, we need to write the story first, which is where that sketch to animate. Every sketch begins with a story. We need to fundamentally understand what is story and how does it work and how do we build on that. So I found through my research and through my experiences at Disney, there's this thing called the Ken Adams story spine. Now, I don't know if you guys know what the Ken Adams story spine is, but I'm going to share that with you. The Ken Adams story spine was, I think the idea of it was invented in like 92. And Ken Adams, who's the guy that created this, was teaching theater actors to become better actors and performers. So he did exercises called improvisational acting. And he would give them, it was a tool for them to build on their skills to become better actors and writers. And so I took this concept and I decided to put it into my classroom exercises for artists that want to be visual storytellers. So let me see if I can find, I had pulled it up here. I want to make sure I get all the previews open. This is my script that I'll share with you in a second. And let's see where all the other recent files. Recent, where are you? Ah, here we go. This is what I wanted to find. Perfect. So this is something that if you go to my, Elizabeth, if you give them the link that takes you to our story, there's a link in here and it says previous works or who we are. And it says the second one down here, it says sketch2animate.com/our story.
I will share that.
That literally, I am telling the story of Kato. Our octopus is named Kato for Sketch2Animate. He's our logo. And Kato's story is broken down in the Ken Adams story spine. So I tell the story of what Kato is about by using the story spine as a direct example of about who we are as a brand and who we are as storytellers. And so I took the Ken Adams story spine and I decided I'm going to create the Sketch2Animate anatomical story beat diagram. And people sometimes ask me, well, why do you have an octopus? And I said, well, the octopus represents the 8 beats of storytelling. The theme is the brain, right? Everything that we watch in movies or hear in stories or read in books, there is an underlying theme or themes that are sort of like the catalyst, the thing that holds the story together. Now the beats support the theme in a nutshell. Themes support the beats support the theme. The theme of your story is whatever you want it to choose. Love conquers all, or good versus evil. I mean, those are generic things, but those are basic concepts of what a theme is. And a theme can be anything that you want it to be, really, as long as it's like a thesis paper. You have what you're going to talk about, and then the rest of the paper is about supporting what you want to talk about or what you want to show that's a fact. The theme is the brain of the octopus. That's what I like to call the theme. It's the moral of the story, and it's supported by each story beat. The tentacles represents the 8 beats. There are 8 tentacles within the octopus, and those represent the 8 beats. So that's why I like to kind of get in my head and be really, really think hard about why symbolism to me is very important. I'm always asking, well, why did you write that? Why did you do it that way? Why does that look this way? What were you thinking when you did that? So I put a lot of thought into my logo design, and I'll start over to the left, and it says, number 1, the beginning. The beginning is establishing the stage of your story. And it starts off with once upon a time. That's the Ken Adams part. Once upon a time. That's the setting. That's establishing the story. That's the very beginning of the story. Number 2 is, and then, or number 1, we'll still stay with number 1. The second beat in the beginning is every day. And every day is establishing who the character is. We meet the character in the once upon a time, and every day we see this character doing this one thing. And so we're setting up who we're going to be following along the story. And then number 2 is the event, the inciting incidents, the story, setting the story in motion. That is then one day. So you have once upon a time, every day, and then one day. Now the event, the story, that the thing that is the inciting incident, it could be anything. It could be a witch comes into town and offers an apple to our main character who's works as a leather, a sewer, somebody that works, maybe as a metalsmith, and is offering him a gift. Now that's when the story gets in motion, and now we're going to follow along to see what happens with this. And as we move forward into which I think is like the hardest part of telling a story, it's the middle part. You always find like the holes are poked in it. We always know what the beginning is, and we always know what the ending is, but we don't know how to get there. We're like, oh yeah, it starts with this and it ends with this, but like what happens in between? That's the part, that's the meat and the heart of the story. That's where we want to take our audience, our viewers, our readers on a journey. And that's the part that's challenging, and that's the part that is incredibly rewarding if we can make it work. So I'm talking to visual storytellers, artists like you. This is where we have to start. We have to start with writing. We have to start with learning how to be better writers, and we have to understand better structure of writing. Now, I don't claim to be the best writer in the world. And I certainly, that's why I have writing partners, and that's why I have copy editors and people that are constantly fixing my grammar. But I know story, and I know storytelling, and I know how to visually sell a story. And through that collaboration of working with these other talented artists and writers, we're able to make and create projects. So going on to the middle part, then we go to the middle, number 3. If you go all the way to the right, upper right in this diagram, you see number 3, the middle. It says a series of consequential actions that builds the main character's arc and the story's theme. Again, a lot of times when you have holes in your story that doesn't seem to be working, what you need to do is look at your theme and then go back into your beats and go back to the middle and go, is this supporting this? Is this supporting that? Because a lot of times as writers, we'll go off on tangents, or visual storytellers, we'll go off on another tangent that veers away from the common theme that we're trying to push into the story. And sometimes the theme doesn't get supported. And so sometimes a new theme might emerge as a result of the story structure that you've created, or you simply change the middle to fix the theme so it supports the theme better. So there's a lot of back and forth that happens, but we represent those 3, I call them 3 beats within the middle by the 3 tentacles. Is because of this happens, then this happens, the result of this happens. And because of this, so it's a lot of because of that, and because of this, because of that, and because of this. There's a lot of back and forth. There's consequences to actions and vice versa. And that's the middle part. Now that could be anything. But I want to also point out, I've created 8 beats, but you could have more because of this, because of that in the middle of your storytelling, because in order to get exactly what you want to get across, we've simplified it here with just the 3 beats of the middle. And then you get to the 4th part, which is on the right-hand side, the climax. The main character succeeds or fails. So that is until finally, which means we're in the climactic ending part. This is the part that's pretty easy. Like, we know what the cool action sequence is going to be. We know what the drama is going to be. We know what the comedic end is going to be. And until finally is that number 4. And then finally we get to number 5, which is the end. The story concludes good, bad, or otherwise. And it goes off to, and we represent that by ever since that day. So when you look at a sheet, and I actually have a sheet here that I'll share with you, which is a kind of an exercise that I would give to students in my class that want to write. I would give them a writing exercise and give them about 20 minutes to write this down, and then they would I would give them, I'd usually partner them up with one other person, so there'd be two of them. And their job was to create a story in 20 minutes using the Ken Adams Story Spine method. But I had a twist to that. So I'm going to share that with you real quick. So I just want to make sure that you understand this. Once upon a time, the beginning, and every day, and then the event, then one day, and then we go to because of this, because of that, then because of this, which is the middle, until finally, which is the climax, and then ever since that day is the end, the conclusion. Did we support the theme? Did the story make sense? So in those basic 8 beats, we can create a very quick story outline of your choosing to start the ball rolling on your concept to creating a short story or a series or a comic book or a children's book, whatever you want to do. I find this to be, for me, the best method of starting off to build the blocks to telling a story. Ironically, what's cool about this is that those 8 beats then can become visual story beats, which are the general concept visually of what each beat is saying within the story. So then from there, you can actually start drawing visuals. Once you've written those story beats, you can then start drawing visual story beats to that. So, which is very much like a children's book. And that's why I like this method, because once I start building out the story, I can immediately go into and start drawing out sketches. Like, I'm always coming up with a lot of ideas, and doing this method really gets me excited, because I automatically, as a visual artist, I just want to dive into the story, but I realize I can't cheat myself without writing it down first. So I'm going to share another thing here to kind of show you for yourself that you guys can do at home. You can try this. And let's see here. It's also on our Discord. By the way, we have a Discord that we have these challenges, and this challenge is in there. And we've given these for the purpose that every challenge we do is a building block to the next thing, that for building your own story. So let's see here. I'm going to see if I can find it. That's that one. Do we have any questions so far, or just people listening?
People are listening. We have a ton of questions
Okay.
that I will send you for later, but they're not related to story. And I want to keep it really focused to story, because that's what you're covering. I just shared again, Travis's Discord invite link. Please join. Somebody was asking if we're going to get homework. Well, hopefully you're looking at this model that
Homework.
Travis, I mean, we have 2 more classes with you. What would you suggest a good exercise would be to maybe do?
Well, this is I'm gonna do this. Is this it? No, this isn't it. I'm trying to find. I had everything opened up, and then there it is. I see it. I see where it is. Perfect. This is a good segue. And again, if you guys go to my Discord, you'll be able to find these challenges. So what you're seeing here right now is my visual board. Now you can download this off the Discord and try it for yourself. The challenge is this, and this is something that I didn't have in here. And you see the squares represent where you'll sketch something, which is your beat board thumbnails. And I always say it's always good to start with beat boards. Your beat boards are giving you a basic synopsis of what is happening in your overall, it's like cliff notes, visual cliff notes to your script. And it gives you the important beats of what your story is. And so I always say it's great to take the Ken Adams Story Spine and immediately, once you write, put your visual beat boards to it. Now, I'm going to give you an exercise. I'm going to write something here real quick. And this is kind of loosely how ARC was built. This is actually a script that I have here that I'll share with you in a second. And we're probably going to end up going over to the 2 hours. So if you guys are okay with that, if Elizabeth is okay with that, I can keep
Travis,
talking.
I work here. I have to stay here longer than 2 hours.
Oh, well, there you go.
If you can stay for over for 2 hours, I am here. For those of you joining,
Okay.
the Zoom session will not quit on you. You can stay here.
All
But
right. So here we go then. With that being said, this is what we're going to do. This right here, you're gonna download this. You're gonna take this and keep this in your mind. You can go to my story and you can download this diagram. I think this is a great diagram. Hopefully it makes sense. You go from left to right to read through this. Gives you little definitions of how to break it down. And then this is going to be your worksheet exercise. Now, what you're going to do is, and this is what I like to do, and I've done this. I have this on a live screen, on my YouTube channel. I also talk about what beat boards are. I have a thing called Back to Basics, which is on my YouTube. And I also have I don't know the exact links, but I also talk about this particular exercise I'm about to share with you on this. And so what we're going to do, what I like to do is I say, and this is what I would do with the class. I said, okay, give me 3 themes. Give me 3 settings. All right. And then 3 characters. Okay. And with all of those things, I'll add a 4th thing. Give me, you can either have a prop as an extra if you want to. Something of Vice that would be used, like the apple would be a prop. That's an important integral part of the storytelling. Or a magic sword, that could be a prop. And then the tone, and for tone, my definition, at least for tone, is it a comedy? I'll go into more here. We'll do this. We'll go. Pick one of these. Pick, is it a comedy? That's why I say it's tone. Is it horror or thriller? Thriller, is it action, adventure? And then is it drama?
what about
Now
romance?
Romance. There you go, romance.
Yes.
Let's add romance in there.
My favorite films.
I knew I was missing something. Now, seriously, I'm telling you, anyone can come up with one story every single day. And this, just like drawing, the more you do this, the better. I promise you. Like I know from my own experience that I have become a better storyteller by using this way. And I did it. This is my made up thing that I did because I needed something to help me. It wasn't for it was more like for me to be a better storyteller. And how am I going to be a better teacher? Well, I need to do this. So I started practicing this with the students, and I created a short with the students, and my short's called Aw Nuts. And I used this method to develop that short to kind of show them that it does work and you can make this happen. So what you do is write your own list down like this, write 3 themes down, 3 settings, 3 characters, circle, let's see, Elizabeth wants romance. So we've got romance. Give me a theme, Elizabeth. Can you give me one theme?
A theme?
Be true, like be true to yourself.
Oh,
is one.
Okay. Never
to
give
yourself. Never give up. Rise above. Adversity. Right? Never give up. So give me one more. So, oh, sorry, I rise above yourself. Seld. What's seld? That doesn't make sense. Okay, rise above yourself. What else do we got? Let's do one more. Tom, you got one? Is Tom out there?
Be fearless.
Being fearless. Let's see what would be like.
Fighting
fearless.
God. Well, that's basically like rising above adversity.
Fighting against fear.
When I think of themes, I think of like, let's make it look Greek, or, you know, like an aesthetic. Themes in story are different.
Yeah, themes and story. Well, the way I think themes are, I mean, themes can be a lot of things, like perspective too. Like, what is perspective? There's a perspective, physically perspective, like drawing in perspective. There's the perspective, the point of view of a character. And there's a perspective of what tone are you, or what's the attitude? What perspective are you coming from with this? So with themes, for me, my definition of themes for this particular exercise is finding the common thing that threads the whole story together. That will, and one of the exercises that we do is we say, go watch a short film. There's a ton of them out there, live action or animation, and take this storyboard breakdown and break down that story. If you can't figure this out on your own, practice by watching the existing story that's already out there and find out what Once Upon a Time is in that story, what every day is. And you can break, they do this at Disney, they do it at Pixar, they do it at Sony. This fundamental method, you can break any movie down into these 8 basic components. And then at the end of it, you find out what the theme is. Tell me what the theme is. And there could be several themes, but that have a commonality to it. And then from there, this exercise, once you can get comfortable with breaking down an existing movie, and that's going to help you understand and see story for what it is in its basic forms, then you can go in and do this exercise too. So 3 settings. Settings is, what's the world? Where's the location at? And I'm keeping this simple because we have to start small before we go big. We're not going to make a feature film. We're going to write a simple short story. This will help you build up to those novels and those feature trilogies that you might want to do in your lifetime before you pass on. So 3 settings, Elizabeth. What would be? It could be. It could be the moon. I was going to say the space station. So we can do the moon. The moon is one location.
Yeah. Awesome.
Mood, not the mood. The moon. What is another one?
Come on, chat. Let us know another one setting. I said the moon. What do you guys think? What about the frozen north?
Antarctica.
Antarctica. Somebody else is saying Paris, a lush jungle. Ooh.
Let's do lush jungle. I like that.
Jungle. There you go, guys.
Okay. So now, again, I'm saying this because this is for you teachers out there that want to teach this. This is a great fundamental, and this can be taught. I made this because I wanted young kids to be able to do this. I think anyone from middle school all the way up through even older elementary school kids could handle this exercise to do. So we've got 3 settings, we got 3 themes, and we're going to make it a romance. We already know that because Elizabeth likes romance.
I like
making it a romance. Yes. And then 3 characters. So let's find now. 3 characters could be anything. It could be a grouchy parrot. It could be an analytical, skinny man who's agoraphobic. I don't know. It could be anything. It could be literally anything that you want as your 3 characters.
Okay, so we have some suggestions: a leopard, a polar bear, and a photographer, a goat, a pig, an old lady, a self-centered pig. What?
Oh, I like self-centered pig.
A self-centered pig.
Okay, that
Okay.
falls in theme with my my arc story because I have a pig in my story.
A bird who is afraid of falling. I mean, afraid of
Oh,
flying. A bird who's afraid of flying.
bird who's afraid of heights. How about that?
Yeah. Oh my God, John, I like it. A claustrophobic turtle. They're getting really deep now. A caterpillar, an alien.
Okay, I'm just gonna go with, we don't have any humans in this, which is fine. And because I love animals. So, okay, so we got bird who's afraid, and then we have a claustrophobic
Turtle.
Hopefully I spelled this correctly.
It's a female. I know her.
Claustrophobic turtle.
As somebody else said, an octopus who lost a tentacle, and that's his confidence.
Oh, that's interesting too. Okay, so let's just go for simplicity's sake. Let's just go with these. So I'm gonna do this in red. So we have this. So, and we're not gonna carry this through because we're gonna run out of time. We're already going over. But take that worksheet. Now, I can post this. I don't know how in the chat room here. If you go to my Discord and there's a link to invite to the Discord. This particular thing is in there, this sheet. But how can I get this to you guys? I can drop it in the chat room?
We can upload it in the blog post that we're going to write about your series today, sharing all of your resources, and then we'll put it there as well for people who want to follow along, and we'll do that today.
Okay, and so let's do this. So then let's pick one theme. What's the one theme that we want? Be true to yourself, rise above adversity, fighting against fear.
What do you say, chat? Don't let me pick. True to yourself.
All right, true to yourself. We're gonna pick true to yourself. So we got true to yourself.
Wait, now they're saying fear. Now they're all saying fear. Guys.
Okay. All right,
okay,
fear.
They're saying fear. Yeah, they're saying fear.
Okay, fighting against fear. Okay, 3 settings. The moon, Antarctica, or a lush jungle.
Chat.
Now remember, think fish out of water. Think of something that would put a character that would not normally be there and put him there.
Oh my God, it's too split. It's between Antarctica and the jungle. A few moons. I
say.
Which one do you want?
I say either the moon or Antarctica, because you would never normally see any of these animals in any of those locations, which will make for a more interesting story, because then you have a lot of like, oh my God, how do they survive? Or what do they do? Or what is this? It builds your imagination. I like to put characters in situations that they're not comfortable with. That's a Stephen King trope thing to do. Stephen King is really good about taking characters that are opposites of each other and then putting them in a situation that they normally wouldn't be put in, and then let them go and see how they react. Look, Stephen King's It is a good example.
Yeah, totally. Well, it looks like the chat is either the jungle or the moon. So you pick, Travis. I think what animals that were sent to the moon and will need to deal with no gravity.
Okay, so we have, and here's the thing. I'm going to give you an option. We can either pick all 3 characters, or we can pick one character.
I mean, they're so amazing, all of them. What, guys in the chat, would you pick one over the other, or all 3?
And I'm going to throw one more curveball at you in a second.
Totally the turtle, but many people are voting for all 3. Somebody said just the bird, but what a lonely bird, Trinity. I don't know. I definitely want the claustrophobic turtle in there, but I'm very biased.
Well, let's do this. Let's pick that one and that one. And now the only reason I don't typically put this in, but you can have it in there, is because you sometimes don't always have an antagonist. You can have an antagonistic situation, something that's adverse, that gives you the main character adversity. Or you can have a villain. But in this case, let's put in an antagonist. Let's add it at the bottom. Or we can do it one of this way. We can go, which bird, let's make one of the birds the hero and one the antagonist.
Oh, there's two birds.
I mean, there's a bird who's afraid of heights and the claustrophobic turtle. Those are the two characters I picked. One of them can be a hero and one of them can be an antagonist.
Oh, I think
or protagonist.
The turtle has to be the good person. I don't know what. Yeah, the turtle needs to be the hero.
Okay. So turtle, hero. And then this is going to be our antagonist. And
I love that the antagonist has a fear, though.
It's great. It makes for a great, it feeds on the idea of why this person is an antagonist. Because we're fighting against what? Fear.
Yeah, against fear.
And this person, this bird, is actually the bad guy. But is he? Or she, or it? So hold on, I gotta figure out antagonist. How do you spell antagonist?
It's a, yeah, G.
Gunist.
I-S-T.
Okay.
Antagonist.
Okay, so now your job, guys, is to take this concept of the Ken Adams story spine, and your job is to create a short story of your choosing with those things that we've circled here and come up with your own short story. And it can be, and we're going with a romance. And the reason why I'm saying we're giving you parameters that you have to stick to, that's the challenge. Okay, we have to give you parameters. Otherwise, you'll go off on tangents and you'll never get it done. So this is why we categorize it. I've categorized it this way. We also have our tone. This is our tone. And do we want to throw in a prop? We can throw in a prop, or we don't have to. A prop is not necessary for this exercise. But give yourself, team up with somebody, a friend, whoever it is around you, team up with someone and create, in 20 minutes, create your own short story using the Ken Adams story spine and using my anatomical story beat diagram to create your story. And then for the next time around, we can go in and we can go on to the next level. And I will use my on nuts here. I'm going to show you this real quick before we go. I'm going to show you, this is the script that I wrote, that I've been sharing with people on my live streams. And I've been sharing, like, later this afternoon, after this thing is done, I am supposed to jump into a live stream and talk about how to develop an animated show. And that's what I'm moving on to after I leave here to go into that. Now, we've been using ARC as that example. And based on the loose outline that you see here, we were able to build this 15.5-page script. And then from this script, I started creating beat boards, visual beat boards, which is what you're going to end up doing for the next exercise. If you feel so inclined, since we're not going to be able to see like 400 of you guys doing this exercise, you're just going to go along with me. And if you want to join the Discord and share this exercise in the Discord with everyone else, that's a great place to get feedback from people. We've already got about 180 some odd people in our Discord that we launched last week. And it's a growing number of people that are in there doing these exercises that are loving it. And it's a great place to also get feedback. If you don't have anyone to give feedback to you, go in there and get feedback. And it's free, doesn't cost you anything. That's why I did it. I'm going to see if I can find on nuts. to kind of give you that example of how you can use this story beat. Let's see if I have it in here. This is something that this was an afterthought. I wasn't prepared to share this part with you guys. But
for everybody asking about the beadboard file, Travis will send it to me and I'm gonna upload it to the Wacom blog, where we will also be sharing all of the resources that Travis has been sharing with us so that you can reference it later and use it. We do have a second and third part of this series, so it's useful for you to download it and fill it out and follow along if you so
as a
wish.
matter of fact, Elizabeth, if you give me 1 second, I can send it to you right now, and you can drop it in for everybody.
Thomas.
Matter of fact,
yes,
I just sent it. I just sent it to you just now.
Awesome. We're gonna upload it to the YouTube. I mean, sorry, to the Wacom community blog, and then I'll make a social media post letting people know where to
and
go.
Also, I'll do this. If you get them to, if you also click make sure the link gets sent to them to download the anatomical story diagram, then they can go to that link and then download it from there.
Okay.
So that's something that they could easily do. And then, of course, if we screenshot this, which we could do right now.
Let's screenshot it so that we can include it in that blog.
Yes. Okay, we're going to do that. And I'm going to send it to you again. So you have this little exercise. And it's fun. I promise you guys, it is a fun exercise to do. And you'll find that you can make fun little stories out of this. And you'll be surprised on how much creativity comes out of it. It really, people that have never written before go, oh, I'm not creative. I'm not a good writer. I challenge you to do this exercise, and I will almost guarantee that you will come up with something very creative and fun to build upon. So let's see here. There it is. I'm dropping it in right now, and Elizabeth should be getting this right now. Yeah. I just sent you the screenshot of this. So remember, the whole thing is, and then send them the Discord invite that's in that PDF that I sent you, along with the link.
Guys, please join Travis's Discord. He's very active there. The community is very generous, very kind, always sharing amazing advice. Please join. I just dropped it again on the chat. I'll be working on this blog post after this webinar is over so that we can get you all the resource Travis is sharing with us.
So how is this so far? Do you guys feel like this is enough to go off of? Do you have any questions for me? I know we haven't gotten a lot of, I can share with you, like, let's see here. I'm in my arc right now. Let's see if I can show you a little bit of development of what I have. So let's see here. I'm going to try to show you examples. Out of developing the story arc, I was able to create moments, or beat boards that I call them, visual beat boards. And so an example for you would be like, and it doesn't have to be this detailed, this is just how I draw. But I create scenarios like such. Like this would be a beat board or a moment based on a story, part of the story spine that you can create when you write it down. This would be an example of what a story beat would look like to describe a situation that's going on that, once upon a time, there's these three animals on a ship. And every day they were running, trying to figure out how to, run the ship and pilot it, until one day they noticed the engine room was shutting down, And so they had to go in and research it and find it. And this is sort of that moment where they do it. Now I'm making this, I literally just made that story up just now, but this visual gave me the means to tell you a simple example of what a beat board is and how it could relate to what you are writing in your story spine. So you can do something like this, or you could, let's see if I can find another example for you. These are just, again, simple examples of boards. I'm going to see if I can find another one that would be fun to do. Frozen otter. So in the show, this is a beat board moment when we were trying to figure out moments for the storyline. There's a lot of animals in the story. This is a series that I'm developing, and every animal on the planet, it's like it's called ARC, is cryogenically frozen in some state, whether they're an embryonic state or a fully grown animal. And in this case, we have a river otter frozen, and the main character is Sue, who's on the right, who's a pig, and Gallus on the left is discovering a new character that we would defrost and then unfurl to the storyline and then become one of the characters in the show. So this is sort of a beat board moment where they're discovering a new animal that they want to defrost, and more than likely when they do that, the otter will run havoc around the ship, and that could be the part of the inciting incident there. Does that make sense, Elizabeth?
It does. Yeah.
This is actually a direct beat board from the actual story that we have that I'm going to use for an example for next time. This is Bo and Sue. Bo is the bull in the front foreground, and Sue is on the right. And they have just discovered 2 baboons frozen, and already they're like, we need test subjects to help us to test out G-force gravity. So they have a G-force gravity machine, but they need a tester to run so they can run the machine and test it on them. And they said, oh, who can we test it on? And Gallus, who's the rooster, said to both of these implicitly, do not let another animal be unfrozen. Do not defrost any of them. We don't want any problems in the ship. But of course, they're like, hey, we don't want to test the G-force ourselves, so who should we test? And then they go, oh, hey, humans used to test chimpanzees and monkeys. Let's find a monkey to test on. And it's sort of a play on how horrible humans are, but kind of in a joking way. But you can already tell by this beat that there's a baboon that has a party animal hat on, and he's fighting over a monkey or a banana. This is sort of a foreshadowing, like if they unfreeze him, these guys may not listen to what you have to say. They may end up just doing their own thing. And that's kind of like the whole beat of this board, is to kind of show you that they're going to unfreeze them, but those tests, they may not be the best test subjects in the world. I don't know. Do they look like they might cause trouble?
I think so.
So, and that's the point of the visual storytelling, and creating beat boards, is to try to tell a story without words.
I love it.
And then supporting. And then here's another beat board example. When I was developing, trying to find moments for the show, this is them. There's a wing in the ship where we have cryogenically frozen dinosaurs. And of course, they unfreeze a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
And this would be it in color. This is another version.
I'm loving
that I drew in
loving the style.
Yeah. So again, for you guys, when you do this exercise, let's come back next week and we're going to go over how to build your story based on this idea. We're going to use ARC as an example, and we're going to start building and demonstrating with you guys how to build those beat boards and get your writings up on boards as quickly as possible so you can start telling your story. And that's where we can end it.
It's a wrap. Awesome. Thank you so much, Travis, for your time. Thank you for explaining everything so thoroughly and sharing all these resources and the techniques that have helped you throughout the years to teach and also just be a better storyteller. Thank you so much. We will continue with the second and third part later on. We're going to be sharing all of this list of resources that you see on screen. We will be sharing it on the Wacom community blog later on today, and I'll make several social media posts so you can access them. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us on Zoom and on Facebook for sticking around for 2.5 hours. Thank you so much, Travis. I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening. And remember, guys, we have a code on our e-store. Take advantage of 5% off if you're in North America. Go to our e-store and use Teach Animation. I think it's the code. Let me confirm. And you can get 5% off all Wacom products. Travis, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you get an opportunity, guys, everyone that's out there, thank you so much for being a part of this. And I hope that this has been helpful and educational and inspiring. And check out, again, our website. Sign up for our newsletter if you get a moment. Go to the Sketch to Animate website. Check out our Discord. And if you guys want to have some more tutorials to learn from, I have a YouTube site. It's a YouTube /Sketch to Animate. And you go there and there's a back to basics tutorials series that I'm doing currently right now. I'm going to be adding to that whenever I get the bandwidth. I add free tips and tricks. And part of the back to basic tutorials and live streams will have this exercise, and also we'll talk about beat boards. There's one in there talking about beat boards. So if you want to watch that, you can. I think it'll be informative for this exercise. And go ahead and, again, go to our Discord, check that out. And I just want to thank you guys enough for Wacom for allowing me to be doing this and be a part of this. And I hope to see you guys around. And if you're in the Discord, say hello. Don't feel, I try to be as open and helpful as I possibly can with everyone. So that's all I got. So actually, I'm going over to a live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/sketch to animate will be the live stream that I'm going to go into in about 10, 15 minutes. And I'm going to talk about developing an animated show. So if you want to check it out, go, feel free. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you so
next
much,
Thursday.
Travis. Thank you so much. Go ahead and switch over to Twitch, you guys. He's going to continue teaching. Thank you, Travis. See you next week.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Peter. Thank everyone at Wacom. You guys are awesome. And thank you, Toon Boom, for the fantastic software we're going to use next week.
Yes. Thank you, Toon Boom. It's a wrap, guys. Thank you.
It's a wrap. I'm leaving. Can I leave? Can I go?
You can. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Bye, guys.